I put sort of specific references on online, and that was really, it's not about painting like them. It's about just giving yourself a bit of a holiday on knowing what to paint. And all you have to do is simply just go to the people that have gone before and emulate them. Just get ideas. You don't have to paint like them. It's just to get ideas of what to paint and maybe how to arrange it, a situation to arrange it in. This is the kind of thing that he would have painted. He would have thrown a napkin down and put two silver objects on it. So, and people think silver is hard to paint, and people think white is hard to paint. I suppose it's true, but there is a method, and that's what I'm going to show. It's not as, I don't think it's as hard as you think, and you should definitely try to do it. The first thing I'm going to do is put a burnt umber wash on my support. Okay, and we brought the canvas down to our tonal value of the palette. The canvas is now the same as the palette. Wipe it down, just tamping it down so it's not too slick when I start painting. Okay, and now I'm going to do the drawing and measure first, okay? So from your point of view, I'm going to determine what the height by the width of these two objects is so that I can fit them on that space. So height, like that. You can see my knuckle of my right hand there is just down by the bottom of that jug, and the tip of the brush is on the bobble at the top of that teapot. So that's our height. What's our width? It's about, what's that, about 2/3, isn't it? Right, so I'm going to, it's less than a square. So I'm governed by the width. I can't come out any further than that, I don't think. I'm going to give myself I've a tendency to make my rectangle where everything fits in and then start exceeding it. So I'm just going to bring it in slightly. That's just a question of experience. I know what I tend to do at this stage. Okay, so height-wise, if I get it's going to look quite small, I suppose. It's higher than that, so something like that, I think. So I'm going to put a mark there and a mark there. So I reckon my entire composition is like that. You know, so coffee pot, jug, cloth, background. Okay. So where's the center of this this composition? Let's have a look. I'm going to do it from your point of view first. There's the entire width of that jug. There, like that. And I'm going to move it across. So the edge of this jug here is kind of in the middle, isn't it? It's slightly past the middle. So maybe the center is kind of like there. It runs up, the center runs up where that shape just turns in to that point there. I think that's the center. Let's give ourselves a center line. Okay, and let's give ourselves a center line that way because we want to know what the center line of the height is. I'm not measuring this, it's just sort of by eye. Okay, so height-wise, where's the center? There's the height of that jug. There's a jug height. Do you know what? Aren't we lucky people? The edge of that jug there is halfway, not the handle, there. We're very lucky. I did not intend that. That just happened. Okay, so we know that the jug comes to there. We know that the pot comes up to there, including the bobble. The jug just exceeds the center line there. Okay. Then that. So that we know that the center line comes to there, but we know that the jug comes to the right of the center line. It comes up there like that. The handle rises out above the jug. So we're using sort of reference points as we go along. There's the jug comes out here like that. And with foreshortening it and perspective, it's smaller than you would expect. And remember that drawing is it's all about sort of making a mark and then correcting it. So you don't sort of draw something, get it wrong and think, I'll blow this, you know, it's the whole thing's gone to a mess. You correct it. Okay, that comes up not as high as the bubble. See, I told you, I've exceeded my rectangle, but it's still, you know, it still has some air above it, and it still has some sort of space below it. So I'm kind of, I'm fine. It's a good enough, it's a good enough position. Okay, so we got this coming down here like that. That's a fold, isn't it? Then there's a fold coming out about the width of that again here. So it's more like that. Okay, and then we've got the cloth, the napkin comes down, it follows the spout a little bit. It comes through the handle and then comes up at an angle there like that. Okay, so there's a bit of a dark in there. There's a fold that connects the jug. You can see it there. Going to mark that in because that's an important one. There's the way the cloth turns around there. That's a light going across there. And then there's a dark coming up here and a shadow there. Marking all these in, there's kind of salient points that we need to paint. Okay. And now there's a dark that comes down here in the pot itself. Marking that in. The dark across the top of the pot here. That comes around there like that. So there's a cloth that comes around here. So there's a lot more subtlety in what's in front of me, I think. The screen just blows things out. It's just a fact of life, can't get around with it. See that cloth comes around here, and then there's a fold around it here. There's a fold in there, and it comes around there like that. And then there's a bit of a shadow in there. I'm just marking these things so I know where they are when I come to register them and paint them there. And then there's another fold here. Shadows. Shadows being cast are objects too, okay? Because we're dealing with a three-dimensional world, only in 2 dimensions. So kind of everything is as important as the next thing. So there's a shadow there. The shadow comes around here. The light's kind of, the light is directly above, but slightly in front. So it's casting a kind of like a midday shadow on proceedings. I shall start talking like Sir William Nicholson now, even though I don't know what he talked like. I can kind of imagine. We place a very important shadow here. And there's another one. Okay, got shadows there. That's fine. Let me do a little bit of detailing on the objects themselves, the silver. So we've got, see that shadow there? It's been perfectly reflected here. After that, it gets a bit vague. I mean, the whole of this pot is in here as well. The top of the spout is kind of dark. And let's do some details on here. Square that off there a little bit. There's a dark that comes around here. This is all burnt umber that I'm using so far. That shadow there is being almost perfectly reflected in the silver here. And then there's a bit of a dark coming down here. All right, and then across the back, that's kind of vague and it's just really a grey across the back. Oh yeah, yes, well that's fine there. I'm going to mark that in so that reasonably dark shadow down there. That was dark there. That's dark there. There's a dark emanating from here. Just need a slightly smaller brush. I'm going to adjust that that drawing here because I want it to come down further. It's more sort of and then there's the handle, of course, like here. That comes out further. That's all shadow there. And then there's shadow there. Right. So I'm going to make a dark. I want to start out with some reasonably sort of dark. So I'm going to make slightly bluish grey. A little bit of black. And I'm going to start putting in the darks where I see them. Comes down here. Comes back around there like that. This is mostly made up of darks. There's a dark down that handle. Across the top of that handle there. We're just putting in kind of dabs and strokes. We're not flattening anything out yet. Well, even indeed if we ever do. Dark around there. See, it's mostly a dark around that. Dark here around the pot, especially around that part of the pot. Not so much on the top. It's been reflected in there. In the spout. That handle is very much the same. There. And across the top of the handle is the same. There. Okay. I'm going to make up what is supposed to be white, but is never white, which is that cloth. So white, it's quite warm. We'll put yellow and red into it. And blue. Do you remember in other classes I've said that you've got to pick out your bright points? So my brightest points, there's lots of them, but that's a big one there. They're all over the place. It's silver, of course, they're all over the place. Really, really bright, reflecting the bright lights around. And then the darkest darks would be, for example, just that point there. That many darks here. Yeah, there's one in the spout just there. So you have to register, you have to think, those are my bright points. So everything's got to be darker than that, and including our whites, because the whites aren't as bright. Dampen down the white quite considerably. I'm even going to put a little bit of black into it. Okay, a bit more blue, a bit more yellow, a bit more red. I'm going to make, see, actually, you know, if I just take a little bit of white, stick it on top, you should be able to easily see the white. You can see it there. Well, you can on my screen anyway. I think that should do it. I don't want to go too dark on it. And then I'm going to do the shadows, because there are shadows. So I'm going to add in a little bit of black with the same paint. You always make the shadows of the thing that you're painting with the same paint. That's an important thing. All right, so I'm going to put where I see it, okay? So it comes across that fold, comes there, beside the coffee jug. Okay, so it's obviously all down here as well. Okay, where else do I see it? It's kind of the shadow in there. This is a simple version of the shadow so far, okay? We will change and adjust as we go on. Even though this one that I just painted in is not the same as the other one. This is not the same as that. This is darker, but we can adjust that later because we're halfway there with what we've done. Okay, and then we've got a shadow coming across here, one down there, one down there. Okay, one there. That is considerably darker than the other ones. One there, actually, you know, that comes up there like that. And this has a shadow cast on it by the coffee pot. Look, that's the spout. That's the shadow of the spout. Okay. You see it across there? That's quite dark in there as well. All right. So we've got some shadows in. And now here's the thing. We're painting silver. This is an important thing too. It's reflected here. So you put it in. This bit almost disappears because it's so much the same as the bit below it. Can't see it anywhere else. Yes, you can see that one there. That's, in fact, that there is the reflection of whatever's going on under here, which we can't really see because it's turned away from us. So now we've got a load of shadows in. So we need to put the foreground in before we do the jugs and the pots, because it's reflecting what's around it. This is the point about silver and glass, actually, is that logically you have to put in what's around it first, because most of what the object is reflections of what's around it. If it was a green apple, you'd paint the green apple first, but here it's practically an invisible object, isn't it? Because it's just reflecting what's around it. Okay. See, this is all the cloth now. We've got our structure of the folds. We put the structure in first. We kind of drew it out as well as we could, first of all. And then the folds kind of make up the bones of this painting, on which we hang everything else. Bit more oil, get it to move. Okay, we're just averaging out all that, what we want people to read as white, although it isn't white. Yeah. And of course, here, it's the same thing. Just be careful not to remove the bits that you've put in already. We're painting over them. We're not ready to flesh out the bones just yet. Okay, let's put on another bit that will be reflected here, which is this part here, which for me is a grey-green. I'm not sure what it is to you. It kind of looks a bit like that on my screen anyway. Sorry, glass of water. Now, let's make up our grey-green, because it's nice and neutral, isn't it? It's what they call a neutral. And the whole effect of this painting is kind of like it is like a bunch of neutrals. It's interesting. It's an interesting exercise. So I'm going to get some white, some yellow, some blue, some red, and some black. And get our neutral color. And somebody told me something interesting once, that you'll sell a warm painting faster than you would sell a cold painting. And that's kind of like a general rule of thumb. And you often see it in illustration work, in like children's books or book covers, that kind of illustration. And everything is sort of bathed in a warm glow. There's a reason for it, because they're trying to sell something. But there are artists who just do that naturally, and it does work up to a point. But the point I was going to make is that there are all these bright, beautiful paintings going around, but also we respond to toned down paintings as well. Ooh, sorry, I just actually pulled the entire affair sort of down over myself. Yeah, we like sort of low chroma paintings. This will be a low chroma painting. Chroma being how sort of how colourful something is, how saturated. This will not be a saturated painting. And they can be beautiful as well. I need a bit of oil in that just to help it move. Okay, so we blocked out that part as well. And so this actually reflects in the lid. Okay, does it reflect down here? It kind of does. This is turned slightly towards that, so I can see it there as well. That is a bit like that there too. Okay, so we've got a bunch of those in. That's a bit more, that's warmer there. Okay, let's make up a warm version. When you paint silver, this is reflecting this. But silver, specifically silver, reflects warmer than the world around it. Something about, you know, the patina, it's just it's not a true mirror because it reflects it gives a glow to the steel. You get almost, and it was very highly polished, you get almost a perfect mirror reflection. Okay, so I'm going to add in some red and yellow to that white that we made. It reflects slightly darker as well. So put that in there. Just in that part there. Comes around there. Goes through that handle. Disappears up there. And then as it comes across here, it gets lighter, more like what it's reflecting. And the same across the top of that handle for some reason. Okay, and then down the handle here, it's warm, pinker. Across the top of here, it's mid-toned but golden. Put yellower across the top of there. That's darker again and pinker. Yeah. Let's do this part here. On the jug. Underneath the jug, spout. Put that in there again. Variations in tone. I'm going to restate that dark there. Something I forgot to put in behind. Comes up there. And I forgot to put it in there as well. That handle comes down further. See, painting is all about adjusting what you've already done. Right there. So here there's some kind of mid-tone warms. As it reflects this jug, put something in there. Don't be too specific. It comes across there as well. We're still only just putting in dabs until we get it where we want it to be. Move that into there. In here, it's kind of dark and golden. Let's have a look. Put there, and that as it comes around inside the bowl, it's there. And then it kind of goes yellower. Okay. And then there's a darkness here. This the terms that you're talking in. You're talking about sort of darks and lights. There's a dark coming across there. I want to put more of that shadow in there. And really, it just links up. You can hardly see it, except for around here where it goes more golden again. Okay, so now this part here, as I say, it's silver and it's reflecting warmly. So I'm going to put a bit of warmth into that part here by putting a little red and yellow into it. And this, with my palette, the palette that I'm recommending to you, is all the colors are very cold, apart from burnt umber. But when you mix red and yellow into anything in this palette, it becomes warm. It's the kind of nature of the palette that I'm recommending to you. You'll get used to it. The reason I recommend this palette anyway is because you know, the colors are specific. You know, the red is it's in the middle of the red color part of the color wheel, and the blue's in the middle, and the yellow's a nice bright yellow in the middle of the color wheel. So it's easier to distinguish your colors. But the fact is that it's definitely it works about this warm and cool part. There's a bit of a dark coming down here. Oh, some lights, some nice lights coming across the top there. I'm just using the very blade of the brush when I do those lines here. I'll admit now that I've surprised myself at how steady my hand was there. Okay. Right, there's that reflection here. I could have made that come down further there like that. Bring that around there. It's a bit sort of lighter here, so I'm going to put that grey in here. And there's a darker part just, sorry, said it would be darker tonight, and then it wasn't darker at all. There. See if I can reproduce any of that here. That's dark. Oh yes, there's a kind of a dark, quite a dark. I'm going to put that in. Going across here. Here we're not being specific, we're just putting in sort of little sort of dabs where we see the darks. See, this is the thing about alla prima painting. You're always bouncing around from one thing to the other. Putting in little dabs. That's much darker there. Sorry. Every time my phone goes off, I have to look at it because it might be Maeve. Let's have a look. Oh. Let me have a look. What? Let me do this. Is the screen frozen?
you know.
Oh, right. Okay. 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 Not to worry. So for some reason, right. Right. The screen hasn't frozen, so or it's unfrozen itself. Good. Right. So where were we? Oh, we were doing darks, weren't we? Now there's a kind of a reddish dark. A reddish dark. Here. Putting that in there. It's a little dot, and it occurs there too. And there's an even darker reddish dark. Across here. And even that is dark. That handle is very dark like that. There's that golden mid-tone here. And it, behind the bobble. Up on the spout. Kind of a lighter version of the warm thing here. Not sure what that's reflecting. Up on the spout there. There's a bluish, greenish reflection here. Okay, is that over here, I wonder? You would expect it to be in here, so we'll put that in there. I can see myself in the jug, just around about here. Hello, Kevin. And a little bit of a mid-tone reflection there. And there's a kind of a reddish golden, probably reflecting the back of the palette that I'm painting on here. Okay. There's a kind of a line of undulations reflected off the turns of that silver here. Just going to put them in as a what else? Oh yeah, there's a brighter sort of light, yellowish, warm. Coming around here. Just loads and loads of reflections. Don't be sort of scared of the reflections. Just put them in as you see them. And it kind of comes together. This is the thing. You think at the beginning, oh God, why did I start this? Honestly, that's what I think. It's what I'm thinking right now. No, but you think, why did I start this? It's so much to do, but it isn't that bad. And then suddenly, somewhere along the way, it just goes vroom, and it starts to look like what it's supposed to look like. There's a light coming up there. On the bubble. Oh. Here. Light grey-green here, must be reflecting that here. Across there. Across there. I'm going to put it in that sort of that dark line. Okay. And then there's another sort of a little collection of darks. That's the hinge. I'm not going to dwell on the hinge. I'm going to cut into the and shape everything around here. And I'm also going to sort of make the, put in some variation, a bit more wide. Hang on. In here. So I'm going to cut that. Painting oils is all about sort of sculpture. You're moving stuff, you're moving the paint around. And see, cut that into shape. Cut the handle back into shape. We're moving paint out of the way, I suppose. Let's put a bit more red into it. Cut that into shape. Okay, let's do something with the cloth again. All right, so the light is above it and coming down into it like that. So all around here and here, it's warm, and across the top of that fold there, and across the top of that fold, warm and slightly lighter. So I'm going to actually put some red and blue, red and yellow into that white, and make a slight pink, slightly pinker. Okay, put a bit of oil into that and a bit more yellow, and push that in there. And shape that shadow a little bit better. And across the top of here is now sort of what we put the neutral sort of tone of that, what we're describing as white here. And now we're painting into it. So you don't have to get it right first time. As long as you get it sort of an average of what you want, you can sort of, you can change it. It's when you're changing things too radically that things go awry and you get mud. See, that's lighter there. Across there. And then there's a slightly sort of more bluish sort of tone on other parts. Pulling away from the light here. That's slightly bluer here as well. I'm going to cut that in, shape it a little bit, shape that. Now, as it comes down here, it gets quite purpley. It's weird, but it's there, so I'm putting it in. White is reflecting everything. It's actually more red. I don't know which one's the red one, which one's the blue one. There's mauve and purple, isn't there? I think mauve is reddish, isn't it? Okay, so there's all sorts of colors in when you're painting white objects. It's reflecting everything. And then as it comes off to the left again, it goes kind of more blue. Slightly darker there. darker as it emanates out of that fold there. Okay, we've got darker there. It's slightly darker as it goes off to the back. Now, over here, it goes kind of ochre-y, I think, a little bit. So I'm going to put in a little bit of yellow and red here. Shadow that I missed there goes up there like that. There too. That's darker again here. What would that be? That would be, is it more like that? Okay, so let's treat these shadows more, because they need to be, you know, these folds. Let's tuck that one in a little bit more. So, okay, and let's do the lighter, warm parts. No, we can do the shadows, won't we? So that's lighter than I have it there. And then that goes darker as it comes there. We've got that there. That there is kind of dark, very dark, and quite sort of maybe greenish. As it goes into here. And then it goes off to the side there. This one's similarly dark. And so was that one there. And then they go red again. There's all sorts of stuff going on. It really teaches you to observe this, this process. Okay. What's going on across there? That's bothering me there. That's not too dark. It's slightly reddish as it disappears around away from me. And then it gets lighter. Okay. More lights there. Lighter again. I need to make that lighter. Up there. And that's lighter as it comes down to meet the pot. There's a lighter bit there as it crests that sort of that wave of cloth. That's slightly greenish as it goes away from us here. Okay, so we've got some sort of slightly lighter tone I'm going to put in here. Across there. What's happening here? That goes bluer as it comes across here. So I'm going to a bluer grey. Blue. got that blue in there. That's fine. That's red there. Let's mess with that a little bit. There's a little sort of line that comes across there like that in blue. All right, some darks again, but more subtle, sort of smaller ones here. Let that meet up with there. Let's do something with the to suggest those rising undulations or the striations or whatever in this jug. What do you call them? Little sort of ridges or fluting. I'm not going to be too specific because I'll just shag it up in front of you. Okay. There's a nice little light coming around here, directly out of the cloth, so that we lose the edge of this jug. We can't see the edge of the jug. And even if you could see the edge of the jug, it might be a good idea to actually lose it, because it supports the idea that we're trying to give, that it's silver and it's reflecting everything around it, and you shouldn't be able to see the edges. Especially where, you know, you need to have polished your silver, don't you? So I recommend that everybody go back and start polishing the silver. And this is finished. The family silver. You can shape this again, coming there like that. That wasn't quite right, so I've just changed that. Change that. Now I'm going to change brushes, because I'm getting into the stage where I can't really do what I need to do with this brush. I'm just going to do something here first. So before I do that, that goes very sort of pink, that reflection there. Oh, there's a nice. Put a bit of red in that. Okay. I'm going to change to this brush, because this is quite small. This is only 10 inches by 7 inches. So I need to put it in a little line in there. That's for the handle. Put a warm across the top there. That's the handle too. The dark is in there already. Some subtleties in the jug here, the teapot or the coffee pot or whatever it is. I'm moving that around, shaping that a little bit, putting in dabs where I see they need to go in. That's all dark around there, but that stays there. Oh yeah. This bit here, I need to shape that in just so that it reflects that. We just, yeah. I'm going to push that in a little bit so it's not so obvious there. There's a kind of a, oh, I have that in there, but that's fine. I'm going to shape this here because that's not right. So I'm going to take some of this grey and pull it around, just sculpt that into shape. And sculpt it into shape here as well, up from there. Okay. There's some mid to light greys in here. Just going to put them in. It just support the idea that this is reflecting a whole load of things around it. In here, there's a couple of reflections in the pot. Now, I mean, seriously, you could go on the rest of the day just on this one study. Put that in there like that. So now we've kind of gotten around, or we've made more of the handle. We can see more of the handle there. Let's darken that around it. We've got that, that's fine. That's in there. Oh, there's a dark in there that I should put in. Okay. And there is quite a dark. I'm going to get some burnt umber and blue. And just under the lip of this here. Here now, there, Eugene. I'm using my little finger. Can you see a finger? Okay. I'm going to put it against the board, against the easel, to steady my hand for this. Okay. Let me just get more paint again. So my little finger is against the board. Move that around there like that. And just same again. Bring that around there. Okay. More dark. Where I can see some little darks, I'm just sort of putting them in there. That thing down there, again, little finger. Now, sometimes you can't do that because the canvas is too big to allow you to do that. I've just got some spare board there. Come down here again. Okay, so we're starting to sort of get near to where we want to go. Building up dabs. That does go a little bit ochre over here, actually. I've just seen as it approaches there, and that's not as obvious as I have it. And across the crest, I should have a light of that fold there. Some more subtleties in there. You got to make sure that there are plenty of colors, even if they're very, very subtle. There's got to be a variety of color, of hues in a white. Otherwise it doesn't look like white. It just looks like a flat sort of plane of harsh paint. Okay. Oh yes, there's a nice thing here that I want to get in. Little finger again. There's a reflection on the side of the book, reflected light, just along there, and that helps to define the pot as well. Now, highlights. Let me just check that. Bring that in there like that. Highlights. I keep seeing things, I'm sorry, I just got to put that in there. And then a dark. There's so much in this. Let's have a look. Oh, I just moved the whole thing. Just along there like that. Now, in this, there are cool highlights and there are warm highlights, as usual. For example, a warm one for me would be that one just there. It is there. But there are cold ones as well, and they're coming from the cold lights that we have around, the strip lights above me, the windows, that kind of thing. So I'm going to do the cold lights first. I usually do the cold lights first. And what I do is I mix up some white with a tiny touch of blue and a tiny touch of red to make a kind of a violet, a very, very light violet. It's only got tiny touches of blue and red into the white. Okay, and then I start putting them in. So for example, there's one here. This is where it really starts to come forward. Across here. So the paint is kind of like, there's more paint on the brush than you need. So the paint is kind of standing proud of the brush, just so that you can just leave it on, tip it on. It's a small brush. One across the top of it. And see, this is why we couldn't make the white white. It's because of these. Because if this competes with the highlights, they don't look like highlights anymore, and the whole effect is kind of ruined. You know, that you're trying to get of silver. Now there are some green ones, green highlights, and they are from the strip lights. They're the tendency to sort of reflect green. You see here, here, and there's one down here. Actually, that's golden. I'll leave that one. But this is the same one as here. Here. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, there's bound to be a couple here, isn't there? Because they're the same. This is a reflection of that. And now I'm going to do the golden highlights. So white, yellow, and red. Just tiny amounts of yellow and red into white. A bit of oil to help it move. Let's put these on so that there. Just tipping the paint on where I see it needs it. There, that's on the handle as it hits the light coming from here. Oh yeah, the golden one down. I'm going to put a bit more red and yellow into some of it because it's darker, but still needs to be in there. Little finger again. Now I'm shaking. And then a kind of a sense that there's a, it's kind of, how would you say, it's kind of got little bubbles along it, on the edge. Just tip them on there like that. There's one in here. Of course, there's one here. And they're all around here because it's reflecting this. Oh, and obviously around here too. Little finger again. Now we've got a lot of information in this painting. Do you know, I'm going to use some of that nice sort of golden color. I'm going to put it in here. We've got a lot of information in this, right? And normally I don't recommend this, right? Because I think people do it too much, and it can ruin a painting. But we are going to do a little bit of taking out the edges. Okay. All right. So yes, in fact, will I use that brush? I'll use this one. Okay, I'm back to that one. That's the #1 filbert. Look at the state of it. It's gone like a toilet brush. But anyway, so I'm going to just sort of just tip the edges. So you see a lot of people use one of these. That's called a hake or a hake. I think it's a hake really, because it's a Japanese brush. And then they just go around the entire painting, blending it. But I think you're probably better off just getting a small brush and just losing the edges, just going around. I think you probably get more of the Nicholson effect by doing that way. What happens, you see, if you start blending too early in a painting, it goes flat and lifeless, and it's usually because people overblend. But blending, they blend when there's not enough information in the painting. There's got to be lots and lots of little hues and little dabs and everything, and then you blend it, and it just sort of brings the thing together. But don't blend too early, if at all. Most of the time, you don't need to blend at all. I'm doing this because I'm trying to get a sense of the kind of classical nature of Nicholson's painting. I like it. I have to say I'm drawn to it. But I'm also drawn to things like Cézanne, who wouldn't be caught dead blending, I think, by the looks of his paintings. Okay. We're around about an hour and a half now, right? Which is sort of, I don't know whether you'd agree. I mean, it's pretty quick, isn't it? When you sort of consider what you thought, you know, or you know, what you think that silver is going to be like. It's going to be like a real chore, but it isn't. I think as long as you get your blocking in right, the most important stage, because you're averaging out the whole painting, and then you're just painting into those averages, and it doesn't sort of it doesn't take as long as you think. And also, you've got to remember, it's only an effect that you're after. You're not after a photograph. So to move those out a little bit more. That's going to move that out a little bit more. That, oh, that's the handle, isn't it? before I remove it and make a balls of the entire show. When you have a texture in it, just gonna. Going up there. The ridge of the painting needs to be lighter. And even sort of at this stage, you know, you can make adjustments. Said he, because he started making adjustments. And there should be some more variation coming across that. And then that fades into kind of nothingness there. So there.
Fabulous, Kevin.
Beautiful.
So
Beautiful.
it's not sort of it could be tighter, like you could keep going on all day, but you don't really need to. And then part of the joy of a painting is the fact that you didn't go in too tight, and it still looks like what it's supposed to look like. There's a bit of a magic about it, but really we know it's not magic. We know it's procedure.
Hard work.
It's procedure and hard work, yeah, and
experience.
Yeah, exactly. So the more you do, so I mean, I do suggest you get something sort of simple, like a steel sugar bowl, so something really simple with it that doesn't have undulations and handles and spouts and hinges and everything like that, and just put it on a white cloth with a plain background. Just paint it,